no, no. We have you, Michelle, Taylor, Angie. So let me pull up the list. There's still a pretty good group. Shauna, Kim, Ingrid, Jess. Let's see. I'll see if I said everyone. So Lisa, not Tanya anymore. Let's see, hang on a second. Taylor. So yeah, no, there's still a good group of you guys. So a handful of you guys are going to be ready to graduate in July. So we'll do a graduation in July, and then a handful of you guys will be ready in August. So it's fine. Like we can just do whatever. We're just going to take it as it comes. I know some of you guys were kind of close to being ready for this June one, but that pressure, it just felt like the last few meetings that we've met, the pressure you've been feeling to get everything done and like in a certain amount of time just was not working for many of you. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just step back for a second. There's nothing, it's not going to change anything, whether you graduated last week or in a month. We're not starting anything new right now. So just make sure, like, it's just not worth the stress. So I'm glad that you guys are here. And I appreciate that. I think, Michelle, you've set a really good example of just being able to step back and say, okay, you know what? My timeline is just going to be this summer. And this is what I need to do for my sanity. And I'm just going to hold to that timeline. And I appreciate you being so open about that, because I feel like it gives those of us permission who are working on different elements to say, okay, it's okay if we do this in our own time. And so thank you. Thank you for being so open with that.
Well, thank you for the encouragement, because I was feeling the pressure to graduate and to get it all done. And I'm like, I just can't do all of this, and I can't do the podcast right now. I just can't. So thank you for giving me the permission to be able to do that. It just felt right once I made that decision.
Good. All right. So let's go through and check with each of you on, so I'll ask you a couple questions. And Jerusha, I'm excited to hear what you're like, where you are with things too, since since this is your first time here, for at least since I've been here for a while. I'm sure you've been through this before. So, all right. Yeah. So here's the questions I'm going to ask you. What is something that is your note to self? So I think just saying, okay, this is what I need to tell myself. This is my learning from this last week, my note to self. Okay. The second is, what is your next thing that you're going to work on? So what is your next step and what's your goal for this week? Okay. So note to self and goal for the week. So do any of you guys want to go first? Do you know what it is? Or Jerusha, let's start, if you don't mind, Jerusha, will you just tell me and tell us what it is that you are wanting to do here in the foundations?
Yeah, I stepped away for a little while so that I could take care of some other things. But I need to tidy up some loose ends, basically. And you get the dog. I have my opt-in, and I've done it in Canva, but I want to polish it a little bit. I don't think it's quite exactly what I want, but it just needs a little bit of editing. I need to do my value offering, and I need to finish up my website and have, just basically all of the graphics are done, but I need to have all of the links in there and just basically, like I said, loose ends.
Okay. Do you have any landing page at all, or are you right now, Jerusha, like doing the kind of building it from where? Like, I know you said you have the graphics. Do you actually have a page yet?
Yeah, I got a template from Tasha.
Okay.
And I went through the initial things that you're supposed to do, and then you give it back to them, and then they give it back to you. I did that.
Okay.
And then that's about the time I needed to step away. And I had my value offering and my opt-in and my what was the other thing? Anyway, I had it all typed up. Okay. But I didn't have it prettied up, so to speak, in Canva. It was typed up and it was very organized. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine for now, but I need to step away, so I'll worry about that later. Well, it's later.
Okay. I
So
mean,
here
you
we
have
are.
been doing things. So I mean, you've had a crazy year, and
Yeah.
you have been remarkable in how you've moved forward. So you've done a really good job. All
Oh,
right.
thank you.
So let's start with, I want to come back and circle back around to you, Drusha, and find out what your opt-in is. But let's just do wins and learning first. So Melissa, I'm going to move my camera. Guys, I shrunk my chair, which means everything has to change. Okay, Melissa, tell me wins and learning, note to self.
Oh.
What is it that you need to remember this next week?
So, gosh, I had a really, 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 really difficult, hard month. And I think just the note to self is just like, I get embarrassed at how emotional I am, and that I want to be, look at, I was going to get through this without emotion, but I want to be stronger emotionally. And I just don't know if that's me, as far as not, just for crying or whatever. 'Cause I cry happy tears, I cry sad tears. Like, these are more grateful tears today. And I get frustrated with myself when I get through a hard time that I couldn't just power through it. So I'm trying to have some compassion on myself. And also, like, I came across, it was just like the little thing, it comes up quite frequently in different people's posts, but that talk from Elder Holland that was like, don't you give up. Like, he's pleading people, don't you give up. And so I think about that, because it's like I feel it's probably that perfectionism. Well, I wasn't just strong all the way through, so I don't know if I should be here with all these other strong women, you know what I mean? So I'm working on trying to have that compassion for myself, and know that I'm as strong as somebody else, maybe. Um it's just one of those hard things sometimes. Um so that was it. It's just keep pushing through, just keep pushing through. And that sometimes maybe I need to feel those lows so that I can stay in touch with the people that are feeling those lows. Because it's not one and done. It's not you get through it and then
Doesn't
you're
that
like,
totally
"Have all the
suck that
answers."
it's not one and done, that you can't just have one hard thing and you're like, phew, well, the rest of my life will be great. Glad I made it through that
The
one. Like,
one
it
thing
just
that
isn't,
you've
right?
Yeah, or the one thing that you've worked on so hard to, like, come up again. You're like, well, wait a minute, I've already dealt with all these things. Why is this triggering and emotional? And it's just hard. But I will tell you, I threw my pen. I taught the lesson in Sunday school yesterday. And I mean, I thought about that lesson all week long, and I prayed for the Spirit more than I have prayed for the Spirit, because that's a pretty intense lesson to just not be as prepared for. About, let's talk about Gethsemane. And one of the other things is I have felt like I just haven't gotten any little downloads or little things. And then yesterday I got a few, and I was like, oh, Heavenly Father, thank you. I feel like I haven't gotten anything for like a month, which depression can do that too. You just don't get those things. And so I made my little note. So I had this little this little thought come to me, and I can't remember what it was. So now I'm glad I wrote a little note. I've been putting notes all over in my I think it was the belonging. And I had the little song in the primary song, I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I know who I am. I know God's plan. I'll follow him in faith. And just that thought, because part of what I want to do is helping people feel like they belong, and it's like you belong anyway. So yeah.
Okay. So what are you working on? What's your next thing? What's your goal this week?
Okay, so my goal is to work on finish my landing page. When I was going to try to push through it and then I decided not to, I kind of took a breather. All those things that I should have been doing. And I was like, no, I'm going to push through. So I've kind of paused that. So I'm going to pick that back up. And then I just finished the landing page and the newsletter things. Those are going to be my things this week.
Okay. Can you finish the landing page in 1 week?
Oh,
Are
I
you
just
that
have
close?
I'm that close.
Okay.
I just have in fact, I have, I had a call with Lamira and I have do. I have an exact thing to do. I just haven't sat down and done it because
Because you took a little break.
I took a breather. I took a break, but I have listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Mhm.
exactly what to do, and then I'll be done.
So do you mind if I ask you a question about is that all right? If I ask you a
Yeah.
question, about you being embarrassed about your emotions. So, I mean, even the Savior showed emotions. And do you think that after he wept after Lazarus had died, that he was embarrassed about that?
No, but I'll tell you something, and I say this not in any
You don't need to apologize. You can just say it.
So in one of my first deep dives with Connie, she mentioned that that's something for me to figure out. What are my triggers? What are those things? Try to help me get my emotions more under control. And so again, with that, not wanting to disappoint people, something that she asked me to try and do, so whenever I just am like, oh, she asked me to work on this, and I still haven't. Yeah.
So, okay, so what I hear you saying, and just correct me if I'm wrong here, but since you joined the DTLC, which is when? Was that in January?
Mhm.
So between January and June 19th, so that's 6 months or so, you haven't been able to master your emotions. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I feel like I haven't improved on
So,
anything.
but you gave yourself 5 months, 6 months to be able to feel like you can master your emotions a little bit. Does that seem like that's a sufficient amount of time to you?
I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm one of, you just think, oh, okay, that's what I need to do. Okay, we'll do it then.
I should do it. I'll just put that on my checklist today. Master my emotions. Check. Yay, it's done. I'll just put that right alongside everything else. Yeah, Michelle.
So often I live with a calm husband and I tend to be a rather intense personality. And so often I have felt like I need to be somebody different. I need to be somebody who I'm not. I need to be more calm. I need to be this. I need to be that. I need to be this. And just recently I'm trying to learn to accept the fact that that I am who I am, and I can have strengths within my intensity, and the Lord will take who I am and use me to help other people, and that I don't need to change. And I think that's the same with you, Melissa. Everybody has their own opinions, but you are who you are. And if the Lord approves of you, who cares what anybody else says? Anybody in the DTLC, anybody in your ward, anybody anywhere. If you have the Lord's approval and he knows who you are, and he can use, as Jerusha put earlier in the chat, he can use your emotions to build his kingdom, because not everybody is stoic Americans. There are people all over the world who show their emotions, and Americans tend to be a little more stoic, and very often that leads to ulcers and heart problems and, this kind of thing. So you are who you are, and God approves of you, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says, and God will take your strengths and your weaknesses, and he will magnify you, and he will put you where he can use you because of your emotions and because of your life experience, not in spite of them, but because of them, because God loves you and he approves of you, and he knows who you are, all of you, and he loves who you are, all of you.
I love that. Thank you, Michelle. And I love what Jerusha put in the chat. Emotions. So you've given yourself like 6 months to master emotions that you've been dealing with for what, a lifetime? Like you really have to like look at this in a perspective, because we do get shamed for being emotional. Emotional is seen as weak in a society. And yet when you hear Connie get emotional, she often gets emotional in different things when it's something that's really dear to her heart. And that silence that follows emotions, as we all kind of can touch and connect with that can be so powerful. So I would challenge you to ask Heavenly Father what that boundary is. And the more you do this, and the more you work through your emotions and some of these hard things that you've been dealing with, then you're going to feel like you're more settled and in a place where you feel like it's not overtaking you, and yet you can use it as a strength. So does that make sense, Melissa?
Yes. And I know like the ones that need to be better controlled are my fear and doubt. Sometimes I have fear and doubt.
Yeah.
And,
like, welcome to being a human. Like, unfortunately, like we took a poll, everybody has fear and doubt. So welcome. I mean, that's part of your journey. And that's why you are helping the people that you're helping. You're helping them overcome what you feel like your weaknesses are, right? Your fear and doubt.
I'm grabbing my Kleenex. Hold on.
Okay. I love, and I'm so grateful for your comments, Michelle and Jerusha. Thank you, because it is so hard to have something that you feel is, ashamed. And I think we all have something, whether it's our emotions, whether for me, the way my body looks, or it can be the way your voice sounds, or it can be that you stutter, or you don't talk as clearly as you want to talk, or maybe your handwriting. Like, we all have things that we feel shame about, that the adversary uses to bring us down. So there's always something. And that's part of our journey, is to work through this so that you can help other people, because this is what you want to do. You want to help other divorced women overcome fear and doubt.
And I will say too, I went and grabbed my Kleenex, and I was just thinking, because I just bought, I keep these everywhere. I have a thing like this in my car, in my office, in my this. And I've always been an emotional person, that's just how I am. But I never had Kleenexes everywhere around me until going through a divorce, because I never know what the thing is that's going to like trigger that hurts so bad. I could be driving home and just listening to, I don't know, an audiobook, something, and something will just hit me, and I'm just like, just tears. And there's part of me that, and this is part of the whole process of what I want to do too, but you feel like who you were is broken. And there's parts where you just don't ever, you're never going to be the same person. And sometimes, you get fixed in a better, more beautiful way. But still, that being broken at some point has been one of the hardest things to have to go through in life. And we all can be broken in different ways, where it was just like,
I want to share with you, and I'm going to do it after we come back, but I'm going to share with you a picture that I took of our trip this last weekend. I'm using it for the origin story at the retreat that I'm teaching. So I'm just uploading it to my photo so I can share it. But we are going to come back to you, Melissa. So this week, I challenge you to stay in when you feel yourself getting in that emotion place. That is when you need to do some grounding, and you need to feel yourself be able to bring yourself back to that prefrontal cortex. And I don't know if you know how that works, where if your amygdala is in control, it shuts down that prefrontal cortex part of your brain so that you can't think as clearly and logically. So it is a balance between having that amygdala in control or whether you're able to think things through. So when you start talking about, these are the things I can do, I have my checklist, I know my next step, you can feel that being a different part of your brain is being used than that amygdala. And I love, like, just read through the comments, Melissa, the scripture, Jerusha, like, it's amazing. Like they're just right on with this. And I appreciate that. So do that. Keep reading through that. Okay, Michelle, your son comes home 2 weeks. I know he's just like 3 weeks.
Three
He's
and
like
a half.
week before my son.
Yeah,
Okay.
3.5.
3.5. So what are you working on this week? Where are you with things right now?
I'm working on maintaining my sanity.
That is fantastic.
Sorry, I was
Because-
gonna be quiet, but that.
Because my sanity is like, last week I had these plans and I feel like instead I was off helping my daughter, off helping my mom, catching up with the assignments for the Liahona magazine that I am behind on. And I just kind of felt like I did not. And then the remodel that we're hoping to finish that we probably won't finish, and trying to get a car repaired that I damaged. I mean, it's just been a week.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So what's
Yeah,
your note
so
to self for the last
my
week
note
then?
to self is, it will all work out. And I love President Hinckley's quote, when we put faith in Jesus Christ, it will, he says, it's not as bad as we sometimes think it is. It will all work out. And I say that to myself a lot. It will all work out, because I get really stressed about how many things I have to do, even things that I've taken off my plate. It's like my daughter needed help. So all day Monday last week, instead of doing what I wanted to do, I was at her house and taking my mom to the doctor. I feel like many times my life is not my own, but I also believe that it will all work out, and that when I give, God will make up the difference. And even if the house isn't done by the time Dennis comes home, he'll come home anyway.
Mhm.
and it
True.
will be fine, and it will all work out. So I did do a little bit while I was sitting at the eye doctor with my mom. I looked at my branding colors and I uploaded branding colors to Canva.
Way to
So
go.
it was just a little bit. I didn't get everything done that I wanted to, but I did do something. And I did have another big win. I finished, at least first draft, the audio recording of my book.
You
And
did?
that was huge.
Michelle,
That was
is
huge.
huge.
Yeah. So
Huge,
and-
huge.
part of that, the problem with part of that was that I kept finding that I couldn't do it at different times because of the traffic outside, or because of people coming to put a bid on our house. And so the floor is creaking, and not bid on the house, but for the repair work. So I started getting up at 5 a.m. and recording some chapters, but then I was totally exhausted and ended up taking a couple of naps in the middle of the week, which then threw off the whole day. So I'm not a good nap taker, because then my whole day is shot. Even if it's only a nap for 2 hours, the rest of the day is like,
Yeah.
But I finished the audio recording. Now I need to go back and edit it and probably re-record a bunch of it, but I finished it. And
Way to go.
that was huge.
That is amazing. Michelle, that's huge. And I'm so happy to hear that. Way to go. Okay.
Thank you.
So this week, do you have any business goals?
This week, my business goals are to edit the audio recording, and to, I really need to get my opt-in sequence done and connected to my landing page. I've connected part of the links to, like Jerusha was saying, I have tons of loose ends,
Mhm.
but I feel like I really need to get my opt-in sequence done and connected to my landing page. And that's coming.
Okay. Okay. Super. All right. Jerusha, tell me what is your opt-in?
It's actually, well, originally it was the 7-day gift of peace, but I think I'm gonna make it a 5-day.
Okay.
I think that's more, as I was doing it in Canva, I was like, my gut feeling tells me I need to, shorten that, condense it, whatever.
Shorten it
So
up.
that's the editing I was talking about.
Okay. So this 5-day gift of peace. So is this something where they have one assignment to do every day? Is it
Yep.
an email sequence, one sent
Yeah.
every day for 5 days? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's an exercise they do every day. They write about it. And then they're going to write at the end, beginning and end. So you bookend, this is where I started. This is what the difference I'm noticing at the end. And then of course it's the challenge is to continue doing it.
Okay. Are there steps for
Yeah.
that 5-day gift of peace? Like I assume
Yeah.
that there's like you do this and then you do this and
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually have 4 different steps that I talk about and try to be brief, but still give examples, be clear, descriptive, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And basically
And-
it's to connect them with Heavenly Father and His Spirit, because ultimately that's what gives us the most peace. But you don't just, do that. You
don't just like connect. You're
Yeah.
like connect. Yeah, it doesn't
It's
work like
process.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this week, are you working on the visual part of that? Is that what you're specifically this week?
because like I said, I have it in Canva and I did it, but looking at it, I was like, I don't think I want this to be 7 days. I feel like
because that's a lot to put in.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do, is go back and just kind of streamline it. I can talk. And just, like I said, the editing, and then that will also, I think, make it more visually appealing, because I'm not
Probably not as
trying to,
crowded.
I don't want it to be huge, and I
Mhm.
don't want it to be crammed in there. So
Mhm. Okay. So we would love to, if you wanted to share it in the group or anything when you get to a point that you feel like you're done. If you would like to do that, you certainly don't have to, but that would be a really good first thing to get
Yeah.
to be working on. If you were able to finish that up and get that to a good place by next Monday, would that feel pretty good if you could do that?
yeah. I would
Okay.
love to check that off the list.
Yeah, that would be, the opt-in seems to be kind of just take, I think, a lot of time. Landing page can take a little bit too, but the opt-in just can take some time to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so we've got Melissa with her finishing landing page in the newsletter. Michelle, you doing your email sequence, connect it to your landing page, start working on editing your audio recording. Jerusha, you're working on that opt-in. So I have everything right? I've
Yes.
recorded it down all right. Okay, super. Let me show you this picture that I took when, let's see, just a minute here, if I can, screen sharing. Let me share this screen right here so I can open this up. All right, can you guys see my picture of a tree here? Okay, this is on the Canadian side of Glacier National Park, and it was, it's called Waterton. They just call it something different. In 2017, a forest fire came through this national park and burned just thousands. I mean, you can just see all of these trees that it just burned. And I found it super fascinating as we went on this hike, to look at all of the burned trees. And part of me, like, cleanliness part of me is like, well, why didn't they just go down and move them and everything? But they had this little video that showed that there was a purpose in the burned trees, and the animals lived in them, that like they had, like, this is the cycle of a forest, that it's important to have the trees go through this cycle where every once in a while you will have a fire that will burn them, and it brings new life to the forest. Apparently in some of these areas, the treetop cover was so tight across the top that it didn't let light in to let some of this undergrowth grow. And so it was affecting some of the ecosystem over here because the tree tops were too tight. And they said by having this fire happen, that is devastating and tragic as it was, it opened up growth for these trees. But I noticed something else that was fascinating. You can see it right here, this little pine tree here. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in order for a pine tree to, like, pine trees, when they reproduce, it's because those pine cones have been burned, and it opens up the leaves of those pine cones and allows them to seed and germinate. So along the path, I started looking for trees, little baby trees, and there would be these big dead trees, and then there would be these little baby trees that were around them. You can see it pretty clear. And this one right here, this is a burned pine tree, and then a little baby pine tree, and you can see there's a baby pine tree there and back here. And I thought, oh, you know what? This is so interesting. And as I sat there, and it was quiet and just beautiful, and the weather was just perfect. And so I sat there and walked through there. I just felt this little download that said, look, Diane, this is like who we are in the DTLC. So we have experiences that make it feel like we have been refined, because fire to Heavenly Father is being refined. That's how anything in the world is refined, is through fire. How the earth and the world will be refined is what we hear from scriptures, is through fire. So through fire, we go through a process that we become refined. And from that process, new growth begins to happen, and new experiences, and we learn things. And I could almost picture that we were in this place, and the women and the people that we are reaching out to also are feeling like they're going through that refiner's fire. And we don't knock down the tree. We don't, like, totally get rid of it and throw it out. It stays there as an example and as a way for us to remember what it is that we have gone through, and to remember what we have learned, and remember what we have grown. However, from that experience, we are able to open up our lives to new possibilities, to new growth, new areas that we can grow and help other women through. And as we kind of see that, yes, these are painful things that we've experienced. These are hard. These are really hard things, and it hurts, and it's not fun. And it takes time. That some of the forest areas were more, were just more developed than others. You can see here, some of these took longer. Over here by this hike here, I saw an interesting tree. Let me see, let me go to this. Yeah, it's right over here. And let me just enlarge this. I don't know if you guys can see. I want to zoom it in, see if I can zoom it in from here. Okay, whoops, too much. Okay, if you guys can see on this tree, it had held on to its little pine cones. And one of my boys pointed out, hey, look, some of these trees look like they have little starbursts on the end. Here's this tree holding on to all of this dead pine cones that had been burned. And I thought, you know what? That's like when we go through something hard and we are so so stuck onto the hard that we forget to let it go and have new growth. We forget that the option is to let the Lord work and refine us in the way that he wants to refine us. Let go and take their experience as something hard, but allow yourself to grow. Let go of the things and let Heavenly Father have them, and allow yourself that opportunity to be able to become the new, strong, better, more beautiful, more refined an incredible person that you are, instead of trying to hold on to what we thought. Here's another one, what we thought we were supposed to be. And if you look around, there just were no baby pine trees down here. All of these pine trees held on to what they had. There was no growth. They were stuck. And we want to help women be able to, and people, whoever it is that we're working with, let go of that hurt, let go of the things that we can't control, and allow ourselves to have that growth. I love this so much. I thought it was for me, such a divine download in, there we are, happy because I got to get out of this. Yes, my little family. But anyway, so that is what I wanted to share with you ladies today, that as we work through some of these hard things, I know some things are just really, and they do hurt. Like I still talk about stuff and I know that my heart aches. And, you know, and Connie will talk about how I know she mentioned a few months ago, she still can't read through her journals of when she went through her divorce, that's still too tender for her. But there's ways that she's been able to shoot down that new growth and then bring people with her and help other people to make it through that same growth. Yes, Michelle.
So I love this, and I love this reminder. And I remember the same thing happened with the Yellowstone fires in the late 1980s. And I was camping in Jackson Hole with the young adult group when those fires were going on. And then about 10 years later, I drove through that with my young family. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the devastation of this fire. The fields are just empty. Well, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, Martin and I went back to Yellowstone, and all of that emptiness and those little saplings, they were 20 years old now, and the forest was back again. And so I love seeing the little pine trees that you showed us. And then I remembered that from West Yellowstone is now it's back. And it took a long time, but now it's big and glorious and beautiful once again. And it was a long work in progress. It wasn't an overnight thing, but it happened. And so thanks.
You're
like
welcome.
that reminder.
You're welcome. And we want it to be fast. Like I bet you that when that fire rips through, whether it's Yellowstone, whether it's here in a national forest, whether it's through a neighborhood, I mean, we want the green back. Like we want, why is it taking so long? Why do these trees not grow faster? Like it's so ugly, right? And we're like, oh, come on, these are little cute baby trees, but we still just see all the devastation and the growth. And yet things happen in the Lord's time. We just can't force anything to happen faster than what it happens. We just take what we can and we grow those little bits at a time. And that means that sometimes, Melissa, that little bit is not going to be 6 months for you to be able to have all of your emotions in control. It's going to take longer for you to be able to feel like you've got a better manage on. Things are still going to trigger. And I'm sure you've probably seen that grief box, Melissa. Have you seen that where like the trigger button is huge in the grief box and there's a little ball bouncing around and it hits that trigger button all the time. And then as time goes, the trigger button gets smaller. It never goes away, but it just gets smaller. So you just don't get triggered quite as often. And it just kind of, but you'll still get triggered. Things will still happen. And that's okay if you're in a place right now where that trigger button is a little bit bigger, because as much as because I know as my daughter's been going through her divorce, she's like, well, I just want it to be shrunk now. I just don't want to be triggered anymore. And yeah, welcome to all of our world. None of us want to be triggered anymore. None of us want to have to be reminded of what's hard. So I love that. I'm going to totally look up that talk, Melissa.
Oh, it was really, really good. So there was
Thank you for posting the link, Jerusha.
I had noticed a couple in our ward, a younger couple, her husband had posted some things about just what seemed like they're going through something like trials and stuff like that. So on church on Sunday, I was in the primary with her for a bit. And I saw her and I sat down and I was like, how are you doing? I saw a couple of Spencer's posts and she got teary-eyed. They'd recently gone through a miscarriage. It's their first baby, and so we were just kind of talking about this. And I was like, I that was never one of my things, and fertility was never one of my things, but grief is hard. And in the moment, you don't want someone to tell you it's going to be better. You just want someone to sit with you in your pain and say, I'm sorry, this hurts. And because it'll get better, things, but sometimes you don't feel them. And so she sent me this talk, and the lady mainly talked on like she'd had some miscarriages and things like that. So it was like very relative to her, but it was a good talk about like the uncertainty. And because that is just one of those things I'm really, really that I struggle with, you know, because I like the ideal versus the real. I was like, that's so one of my things, because I'm like, and I put a lot of the ideal on what we've been taught to be ideal. Like when I never stayed home full time with my kids. I always worked part time, and I always just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, well, why did that work out for me? That was the ideal. That's what you should be doing. And that was never the answer. And I look at my job. I have a good job and I make decent money. And I would not have had that if the Lord hadn't put all that in my path from the beginning. And so I see some of those things, and I can look back, but when you can't look back yet and see what this part is for, it's hard. Also, I am one of those that's very open, very vulnerable. And so we'll share those tender things. And like for the past week, I've been doing really well. But when I start talking about it, the emotions come out again.
Yeah.
So I haven't been sitting here crying all day, every day.
No, it's okay. I'm glad that this is a safe space. I'm so grateful this is a safe space. Whenever I talk to Connie, I cry. I don't know if that's how you guys are, but like when I have because there's not very many people that I can just be like let that vulnerability shine through for. And Connie's one of those people I can do that with. That's okay. It just means we're safe. It means that you don't feel like we're going to beat you up. That we're going to encourage you and love you for who you are, Melissa, whatever stage that is. And I would encourage you to and this is something that is hard for me as well. Because I want to people please, and I want to people please Connie. And I think a lot of us do. Connie is an ideal for many of us and in many ways. And I've had to take a step back and say, wait, Diane, don't lose yourself in trying to do what you think Connie wants you to do, because Connie does things her way, which is wonderful and beautiful and incredible. And we just love Connie. And we're all here because of Connie, but there's a Diane way to follow Connie. And what is the Diane way to follow Connie? How can I do everything that she is teaching and be the person that I want to be, that I want to be able to reflect some of those amazing qualities of Connie, but with my own fingerprint on it. And that's taken me some time. I'm coming up on my year. In fact, our retreat was this last weekend, a year ago. And so it's something that I've had to work through. I don't think Connie is wanting to have everyone be little miniature Connies. I think that she is wanting us to learn from her experiences and then take what we need. And she'll always say, this is not the 11th commandment. Like, she'll just say, take what you need and do your best with it. So letting go of some of that and just being like that pressure, Melissa. And Jerusha, you've been working for Connie for quite a while too. So maybe you might have like a different perspective or a different take on that. I don't know. Yeah. You have anything you would add to that, Jerusha?
Oh, I think you're spot on. I think we're supposed to be ourselves. That's why we're here. That's what everything is about. And we can love Connie and not, be exactly like her. But I think in all
I don't have enough energy to be like
nobody has enough energy. No,
holy cow.
But at the same time, I think that there's something there in the sense that, we're all doing this for him. That was the point. That was what drew us in the first place. And so really it's not even about Connie. And I think that's just one of the ways that we get caught up in things is, oh, she's so great. And she's, and she is. At the same time, what does Heavenly Father want me to be? What was I sent here to be? And I think as sad as it makes me feel almost to say it, Connie's just a stop along the way. because there are so many other things too that he'll give you as examples and blessings. And so she's definitely a blessing. She's huge
definitely.
that way.
Yeah.
At the same time, she's not the only blessing he's going to give you and the only role model and the only, I mean, we look to the Savior for that, really. And
No,
so does
and-
she.
Yes. And the other thing is that it's very possible that it's like, maybe she didn't say exactly what I told you she said, but that's what my
That's
heart
what you
perceived.
heard it as.
That's what I heard.
Mhm.
And so, because I'm like, oh, that's a strong, I gotta fix this. I gotta, and she may have been even saying something different than what I
Mhm.
perceived it. But then I may like try to work on that. Like I have this struggle sometimes with just being like, okay, good is good enough. And but I am like, well, where did all this pressure on myself come from? And I know it's like not I know that that is not necessarily like correct, but like when people say read your patriarchal blessing, do you know how much the Lord has put on me in my patriarchal blessing? And I'm like, I feel like I know you know what I can do, but I don't know that I can do this. And I don't know that I have the energy or want to put all the energy in all the things that you want me to do. And so I feel like even pressure from my patriarchal blessing, I feel like, and that's not what God is all about. He's not about putting pressure on me. But like I said, when I went through my patriarchal blessing, and we did that sipping before, I said I added another one when I went through, and that was responsibilities, because my patriarchal blessing says responsibilities like 10 or 12 times in there. It'll be one of your responsibilities. Another one of your major responsibilities. It'll be your responsibility. You'll have the responsibility. And I'm like, it's just too much.
But you
Sometimes
remember,
it's
there's
like-
no timeline. There's no timeline.
That's what I
with
need to
patriarchal blessing.
remember. Is
There's
that I'm
no
not trying to
timeline.
do it
And
all
there's
at once.
there's a time and season for everything. So we just take things in their time and season, and we just do the best we can, and with what we have and what we can do. So you guys are doing a good job, and it's through these little steps and being kind and loving with ourselves, but keep moving forward. So we can take a minute to rest. Like you said, Melissa, you took a minute to rest. Now we say, okay, what is the next? I don't want to get stuck here. What is my next growth? What little branch of my tree am I supposed to work on next? And help me to know what that looks like so that I can stretch and grow the way that you want me to, and the way that you need me to. What's my next thing this week? And that's what this foundations thing is. So this week, you guys each have what your next thing is. And we are going to try and stay in that part of your head that's like, okay, I'm working on this, and I understand that I still have tender feelings and emotions that are still coming with this, but I'm going to work on my next step because that's what I can do. I can't control. I don't get to control every time I get triggered. Like you did, wouldn't that be great if we're like, yeah, I'm just not going to get triggered for a couple of weeks or for a few months? That would be great. It'd be fantastic. Every time you go through the same
microphone.
You got the microphone. Every time you go through the same thing, I've noticed that it's just easier the next time. So you're just, okay, I've done this before. I can do this again. You're becoming a master at technology, Melissa. Look at you go. You've totally got this. All right. You guys are doing great. Keep up the good work. If there's anything else we can do, schedule an appointment. My appointments this week are a little bit limited because of the retreat. Next week, my schedule's open for whatever. So feel free to check in with Lamira or myself for help with whatever. You are not doing this alone. You are not in this alone, so that we can help you keep moving forward. Michelle, I'll be excited to hear how your email sequence goes. Hopefully it comes together pretty quick, because like you said, you guys all just have putting little pieces together. All of you guys are in that same situation. You're just tying up loose ends. So one little loose end at a time. And let's see if you feel like you're at a point by mid-July that you're like, okay, I have enough loose ends tied together. that I think I'm ready to put this on a shelf for right now. And then you can come back and visit it like Jerusha's doing anytime and work on it a little more if you want. But you guys are doing a good job. So keep up the good work. Yes.
I also want to say thank you to everyone. It's like I have just this like community of cheerleaders
You do.
that just I feel like believe in me sometimes more than I believe in myself. It's like sometimes I can do the end picture, but I really struggle with getting through the middle part to the end picture. It's like I can see myself being successful in doing that once I've learned everything, but the learning is hard. And I'm so grateful for all the little cheerleaders that you're like, you got this. We've got you too.
We love you. We do love you, Melissa. And that's what, that's what we're here for. That's the power of being in a group. Can you imagine trying to do this on your own? Like, thank heavens, right? Thank heavens for the support. And
that's why they gave the option of like doing the DTLC or doing it on your own. I was like, yeah, I can't do this on my own because I would have stopped way long ago. It would have been, that was a good idea. But I'm going to get through this at some point and be like, you guys do not know the tears and the sweat that went into this whole thing.
Me too.
I'm thinking, I can't do this. What am I doing?
Me too. I've shed my many tears, threatened many times to quit and go work at Costco as a sample lady. Like I totally like bring people happiness in a different direction. So we're working at a soda shop or something. Anyway, all right. Love you guys. Keep going. And we will be in touch over the on WhatsApp. And if there's anything else that I can do for you, please let me know. Please reach out. So
I haven't seen you on Be Real lately, Diane.
I know, because you know what? It was always, my notification was always there because I kept missing days. So I was like, okay, this next week, I'm taking the app off of my home screen, or not, it wasn't my home screen, it was a side screen. And maybe this next week I'll put it back on because that was fun at the retreat, even though we got in trouble.
I know we did get in trouble.
We did get in trouble. Michelle and I got in trouble at the retreat because I don't know if you guys, who told us to do Be Real? It was Britt Benyon. And so I was like, okay, I'll download it. And then like the Be Real came up in the middle of when Connie was like speaking. And so Lamira, Katrina, Michelle, and I are all sitting at this table and we all like pull up our phones.
Yeah. And it was just you and me that got caught.
It was everybody else had done it, but Michelle was like, hey, Diane. And so I went like over to like pose in her Be Real picture. And yeah. And that was what that was
taboo. I apologize profusely.
Like, I'm sorry, Connie. She's like, you guys are like high school girls back there taking a selfie. I was like, it was Be Real. So anyway, that was our, oh yeah, I haven't been on there recently.
So give me a Be Real this week while you're at the retreat.
Okay,
I won't be there. I'll be remodeling a house, but I won't be seriously.
Sounds great. Well, and then when
Be Real on?
What was that?
Be Real's a new social media app.
Okay, I've heard of it where it just tells you like, so you're taking a picture just whenever it tells you to. So it's like you're in the real moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm always late because I never get a real notification of when it's time. So I'm always late. So I just take it whenever I can.
So do you like follow your friends or what?
I just have like my daughter and a roommate of hers and Diane and a friend from high school and a lady in my ward. That's it.
Yep. You just follow, it's just your friends. You just follow your friends on there. Yeah. And you can go through there is a feed that you can go through if you want, but it's not very exciting. So, I mean, we're not talking about like, it's not as addicting as, because there's just not that many things. Maybe if you had hundreds of friends on there, but yeah, you just kind of go through as people like, you see what it was, everyone doing at 3:10, it might be Walmart, mine's my computer screen. Sometimes it's just, yeah. It's kind of a fun thing.
You kind of get the idea how boring your life really is when every time Be Real comes up, it's like, oh, I'm sitting in a little office, take another picture. This time we'll get the ceiling fan.
All right, you guys, I'm gonna go hop on the retreat call. If anyone else wants to join, you guys are welcome to hop over and we'll talk to you later. Okay, we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.